Look at yourself for a moment, not the image you show the world, the real you. If you feel exhausted, drained, and mentally overwhelmed, it's not because life is too heavy. Life has always been heavy. The real reason you're tired is because you're constantly performing. You live as if eyes are always on you, judging you, measuring you, waiting for you to fail. Here is the truth that might sting before it frees you. Most people are not watching, not in a cruel way, in a liberating way. People don't wake up thinking about your mistakes. They wake up thinking about their own problems, their own fears, their own insecurities, their own survival. Everyone is locked inside their own mental battlefield. And yet, you carry the weight of an imaginary audience everywhere you go. You wake up already wondering, what will they think? You hesitate before acting, asking, what if I look stupid? You stay silent when you want to speak, afraid of judgment. You delay your growth because you fear embarrassment. That is not living. That is performing. And performing drains the soul. You have been shrinking your potential for approval that may never come. You've been walking carefully, thinking carefully, dreaming carefully, all to avoid imaginary criticism. You built your life around reactions that are not guaranteed, and that is why you feel trapped. Here is the terrifying realization. You've been living small for an audience that barely exists. And when you truly understand that, something shifts inside you. Because the moment you stop begging to be seen, you stop moving with power. You stop explaining yourself. You stop justifying your decisions. You stop waiting for permission. You begin to act, and action is dangerous, in the best way. When you no longer seek approval, fear loses its grip. When you stop trying to impress, confidence begins to grow. When you stop needing validation, discipline takes over. Now listen carefully. When people clap, they are not clapping for you. They clap for the idea of success. They clap because your moment gives them a short burst of hope before they return to their own lives. And when people criticize, they are not criticizing you. They criticize because it gives them a temporary sense of superiority. Either way, their attention is brief. Yet you've been trading your permanent peace for their temporary reactions. That is a terrible exchange. This is why one negative comment can ruin your entire day. This is why you over-explain. This is why you apologize too much. This is why you seek reassurance for decisions you already know are right. Deep inside, a part of you still wants approval. But approval is not freedom. It is a cage disguised as comfort. When you depend on people's opinions, your identity becomes flexible. You shapeshift to fit rooms. You adjust your personality to avoid discomfort. You slowly trade pieces of yourself for acceptance. And one day, you wake up and say, I don't recognize myself anymore. You didn't lose yourself. You negotiated yourself away. Now imagine this. You've been carrying a heavy backpack your entire life. Inside it are invisible labels: smart enough, successful enough, strong enough, worthy enough. Every label written by someone else. Parents, teachers, friends, strangers, society, the internet. You didn't choose those labels, but you carry them anyway. And you've been dragging that weight so long, you forgot it was there. The day you finally put that bag down, you will feel strange, light, unfamiliar, maybe even scared. Because without those labels, you must finally decide who you are. That is freedom. But freedom is uncomfortable at first. Because freedom demands responsibility. When nobody is watching, when nobody is judging, when nobody is keeping score, you must act from your own values, not borrowed standards. And that is where true power is built. You see, your mind constantly looks for proof that you matter to others. That's why you check messages, check notifications, check likes, check views, check reactions. Every small signal of approval gives a brief dopamine rush, a moment of relief. But relief fades quickly. Because validation is not a foundation. It is a spark. And sparks do not build fires. Consistency does. So you need a stronger anchor, one that does not depend on attention. And it begins with a quiet decision. I will improve even if nobody notices. I will train even if nobody praises me. I will build even if nobody believes in me. At first, your ego will panic. Because the ego wants applause before progress. It wants recognition before discipline. It wants rewards without repetition. But your life is built in repetition. Your strength is built in silence. Your character is built when nobody is watching. And that is where real transformation begins. So ask yourself, if nobody could ever see your success, would you still chase greatness? If nobody ever praised your discipline, would you still work? If nobody ever noticed your progress, would you still grow? Because if the answer is no, then you don't want greatness. You want attention, and attention is cheap. What you want is power, and power is built quietly. But here is the hardest truth of all. The greatest prison is not fear. It is embarrassment. And until you learn to walk straight through discomfort, your freedom will remain just an idea. Fear is not the enemy. It is the gatekeeper. Every time you stand at the edge of growth, fear appears. not to stop you, but to test you. Fear asks a simple question: how badly do you want to change? Most people answer by turning back. They wait for confidence. They wait for clarity. They wait for certainty. But certainty never arrives before action. So they stay exactly where they are, trapped inside safe routines, predictable habits, and familiar discomfort. They call it stability. But deep inside, they feel stuck. Because comfort without progress becomes suffocation. The mind is designed to protect you, not to evolve you. It keeps you inside known territory. It whispers caution. It magnifies risk. It exaggerates danger. It shows worst-case scenarios, all to keep you safe. But safety and growth do not exist in the same space. Growth requires uncertainty. Growth requires exposure. Growth requires risk. And fear is simply the nervous system reacting to unfamiliar territory. The problem begins when you obey fear instead of observing it. Every time you avoid discomfort, fear grows stronger. Every time you retreat, fear becomes authority. Every time you hesitate, fear learns it can control you. But when you walk forward despite fear, something powerful happens. Fear shrinks, because fear feeds on avoidance, not action. Think of every moment you regret. It is rarely something you did. It is almost always something you didn't do. The words you didn't speak, the chances you didn't take, the risks you avoided, the dreams you postponed. Regret is not built from failure. It is built from hesitation, and hesitation slowly erodes self-respect. You begin to see yourself as someone who backs down, someone who waits, someone who hides, and that identity becomes heavy. Now here is a truth that can free you. Embarrassment is temporary. Regret is permanent. That awkward moment fades. That uncomfortable silence passes. That failed attempt becomes memory, but regret lingers. So the real question becomes, which pain are you willing to carry? The short sting of discomfort, or the lifelong ache of unfulfilled potential? Because one is light and one is crushing. Now understand this. Fear never disappears. It only changes form. At first you fear embarrassment. Later you fear failure. Then you fear loss. Then you fear irrelevance. Fear evolves with your growth. So the goal is not to eliminate fear. The goal is to train courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. Every small act of courage builds emotional resilience. Raising your hand, speaking your truth, starting before you feel ready, training when you feel tired. Each moment rewires your nervous system. It teaches your mind, I can handle discomfort. And the more discomfort you can handle, the more powerful you become. Because power is not control over others. It is control over yourself. Now let's talk about exposure. Your nervous system adapts to whatever you repeatedly expose it to. If you avoid discomfort, your tolerance shrinks. If you seek discomfort, your capacity expands. This is why discipline works. Cold showers, hard workouts, focused work, silence, stillness. Each one trains emotional control. Each one builds resilience. Each one expands your comfort zone. And as your comfort zone expands, fear loses dominance. You stop panicking in uncertainty. You stop collapsing under pressure. You stop avoiding challenge. Instead, you lean forward, and that shift changes everything. Now consider this. The strongest people you know are not fearless. They are fear-trained. They have walked through discomfort so many times that fear no longer stops them. It merely signals that growth is happening. They feel fear and move anyway. That is mastery. And mastery is not built in motivation. It is built in repetition, daily courage, tiny acts of boldness, small decisions to step forward. This is how weak minds become unbreakable. Now imagine living without hesitation, speaking clearly, moving decisively, acting without second-guessing. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. When your actions match your values, confidence emerges naturally. And when confidence emerges, your presence changes. You stand taller, you speak slower, you walk steadier, because you trust yourself. And trust is the deepest form of confidence. But there is one more barrier, a silent killer of potential, something far more dangerous than fear, because fear at least warns you. This enemy works quietly. It whispers comfort. It seduces with ease. It slowly weakens your discipline. And unless you conquer it, everything you build will collapse. In part 3, you will face the true enemy of greatness, comfort addiction, and learn how to transform pain into unstoppable momentum. Fear tests you, but comfort destroys you. And unless you break free from its grip, you will live a life that looks safe, but feels empty. Comfort is the most dangerous addiction in the world. Not because it feels bad, but because it feels too good. Comfort doesn't attack you. It seduces you. It whispers, relax, you deserve rest. It says, you can start tomorrow. It convinces you, you still have time. And slowly, silently, it steals your potential. Most people don't fail because they are weak. They fail because they become comfortable. Comfort dulls hunger. Comfort kills urgency. Comfort softens discipline. And when discipline fades, so does momentum. The human brain is wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. That instinct once protected us from danger. But in the modern world, it traps us in mediocrity. Because growth lives inside discomfort. Every meaningful transformation requires sacrifice. Every level up demands effort. Every breakthrough comes through struggle. But comfort offers a shortcut. Stay the same and feel okay. And that is the deal most people accept. They trade long-term greatness for short-term ease. And they call it balance. But balance without ambition becomes stagnation. Now understand this. Your comfort zone is not a place of peace. It is a place of slow decay. Inside comfort, skills weaken. Inside comfort, discipline fades. Inside comfort, courage disappears. You don't notice it at first. It happens gradually. One skipped workout, one delayed task, one excuse accepted, and then another. Soon, effort feels heavy. Progress feels exhausting. Discipline feels unnatural. Because comfort has rewired your nervous system. You have trained yourself to avoid difficulty, and whatever you train, you become. This is why self-mastery demands voluntary discomfort. Not punishment, not suffering, but intentional challenge. Cold exposure, physical training, mental focus, delayed gratification. These are not harsh practices. They are awakening tools. They wake up your nervous system. They sharpen your awareness. They strengthen your will. They remind your mind, I am capable of more. When you step into discomfort voluntarily, you take control back. Instead of life pushing you, you push yourself, and that creates power. Now here is the key principle. Pain chosen is power. Pain avoided is weakness. When discomfort arrives and you choose to lean in, you rewire your identity. You stop seeing yourself as fragile. You stop seeing yourself as weak. You stop seeing yourself as limited. Instead, you become someone who handles pressure, and pressure builds strength. Think about training. Muscles grow through resistance. Focus grows through distraction control. Confidence grows through fear exposure. Nothing grows in ease. Now let's talk about effort. Most people misunderstand effort. They think effort is draining, but effort is energizing when aligned with purpose. When you push yourself physically, your mind becomes clear. When you push yourself mentally, your emotions stabilize. Discipline creates structure. Structure creates calm. This is why hard days often feel better than lazy ones, because effort gives meaning to time. Idleness drains life. Now observe your habits. What do you reach for when life feels uncomfortable? Your phone? Entertainment? Food? Distraction? These are not problems. They become problems when they replace growth. Distraction numbs discomfort, but it also numbs ambition. And ambition, once numbed, is difficult to revive. So discipline becomes protection, not restriction. Protection from decay. Now imagine this. You wake up early. You train your body, you sharpen your mind, you focus deeply, you delay gratification, you feel alive, not because life is easy, but because you are earning your confidence. Earned confidence is unbreakable, because it is rooted in action. You trust yourself because you prove yourself, and that proof builds identity. But here is the truth most people avoid. You will never feel ready to live disciplined, training when tired, working when bored, focusing when distracted. This is where greatness is built, and it is built quietly. Not in motivation, not in hype, not in excitement, but in consistency, and consistency builds character. Character builds confidence. Confidence builds destiny. But there is one final element that seals everything. One final shift that transforms discipline into mastery. And it is not effort. It is identity. Because until your identity changes, your habits will always fight your comfort. And in part 4, you will learn how to permanently shift your identity. So discipline becomes natural. Confidence becomes effortless, and growth becomes unstoppable. Comfort weakens you. Discipline strengthens you, but identity decides which one you follow. Everything changes the moment you stop trying to improve your life and start becoming someone new. Because your life does not rise to your goals, it falls to your identity. You can set goals. You can plan routines. You can feel inspired. But if your identity remains the same, your behavior will always return to old patterns. That is why change feels temporary for most people. They try to act disciplined. They try to think positive. They try to stay consistent. But deep inside, they still see themselves as undisciplined, doubtful, uncertain, and weak. And the mind always acts in alignment with identity. If you believe you're lazy, you will act lazy. If you believe you are weak, you will avoid effort. If you believe you are capable, you will rise to challenges. So the real work is not changing habits. It is changing who you believe you are. And identity is not built through affirmations. It is built through proof. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you send your mind a signal. I am disciplined. Every time you face fear instead of avoiding it, you teach yourself. I am courageous. Every time you remain consistent, Even when motivation fades, you reinforce. I am reliable. And slowly, quietly, your identity shifts from weak to strong, from uncertain to confident, from hesitant to decisive. This is how transformation becomes permanent. Now understand this. Small actions done consistently carry more power than massive efforts done occasionally. One disciplined decision a day can rewrite your future. One act of courage can reshape your self-image. One focused hour can change your trajectory. Transformation is not dramatic. It is daily. Now imagine becoming someone you deeply respect. Someone who keeps promises, especially to themselves. Someone who acts with intention. Someone who remains calm under pressure. Someone who does not seek validation. That version of you exists. Not in the future, not after success, not when life becomes easy. That version exists now, waiting for alignment. Now here is the final truth. You will fail, you will stumble, you will feel weak, you will lose momentum. This does not mean you are broken, it means you are human. But the difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck is simple. They stand back up. They do not quit. They do not retreat. They do not surrender. They adapt. They adjust. They continue. And that persistence slowly forges unbreakable confidence. Now think carefully. 5 years from now, you will become someone. The only question is, will that person be stronger or will they carry regret? Because time will pass regardless, so you might as well grow. Now let this moment be the shift, not tomorrow. Not next week, not someday. Now, right now. Decide to move differently. Decide to speak differently. Decide to train differently. Decide to think differently. Decide to become different. Because the moment you take responsibility for your identity, you take control of your destiny. No more excuses. No more waiting. No more hesitation. Only action. Only growth. Only discipline. And one day your future self will look back at this moment and quietly say, thank you for not giving up. This is your moment, not to feel motivated, but to become disciplined, not to dream, but to act, not to wait, but to rise. Because everything you want is waiting on the other side of consistency, and the journey begins now.